Hi, everybody. I just wanted to go back over some of the things I've been trying to say, only try to say it more concisely. I try to create an axiomatic system for understanding our reality in light of all of the best of available evidence. And that reality would go something like this. It would appear that we came into existence through the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. And the Big Bang probably was, the evidence seems indicated that it was a simple underlying thing that had some rule applied to the space and it expanded forward and created complexity that led to our existence. The planet Earth was formed as a big pocket of stability 4.5 billion years ago after, about 9 billion years or so of the universe expanding. And then we came into existence, and we see that in the fossil record through, 2 billion years of bacterial life, and then the Cambrian explosion, multicellular life, and then slowly but surely the process of evolution created us. So in light of this, where does God stand in the middle of all this? And I'd say that God's probably the one who triggered the entire process forward, and that he probably is time, or he is the power of God is time pushing the universe forward as every second he's pushing it forward in the way that he is, and we make our decisions in light of that. Now he doesn't know what we're going to do. He doesn't know what the future is. He's finding out what the future is as it plays itself out. And you could say, well, God's all-knowing and he's outside of time and he can already see to the end of time. Well, lots of people have problems with it because it's incoherent. It's not logical. And by the way, he's all-powerful, right? So isn't God able to make a universe where he doesn't know what the outcome of the universe is going to be? And in fact, he doesn't even know what could happen. Not only does he not just, some people would think he could see all the possible outcomes, but maybe there's outcomes he doesn't even know that could happen. And that's why the universe is playing itself out. He's watching to see what occurs. And maybe in parallel universes, things have come into existence and he was looking at that and it's like, that's not interesting. And he just got rid of it. And in other universes, this is tying in this Steve Wolfram's idea of branchial space, the idea of simple underlying rules, complexity playing itself out. And so we exist as observers in this world, seeing ourselves, trying to make sense of the world around us. And the reason why we exist is because this is an interesting creation. God's looking at it going like, well, look at these guys. What are they going to do next? And as horrible as some things have been, I'm sure, it's one of those things where God has probably been very close to wanting to cancel this world. Like, oh, God, I'm going to withhold time from it so that it doesn't keep going forward and putting an end to it. And to the extent that God's, sees justice the way I might perceive that he would see justice. People have died, and still have, he's fashioned other realities for them in heaven or hell or whatever, there's those ideas about afterlife, things that I can't know, just like I can't know that God is actually there, just like I can't know that God actually triggered it forward. But there's nothing in this world that I see as logically inconsistent with the existence of God, that God is all powerful, all knowing, and all loving. He knows all that can be known. He can do all things that can be done. And his lovingness is exists by the very fact that we exist. And you can sense that lovingness for that reason. The evil of this world is wasn't something that he planned for. Wasn't something that he saw that was going to happen. But he sees the evil of the world coming. And he sees those evil moments, and he had to decide whether to let the universe keep playing itself out or not. And so I believe there's an all-loving God. It doesn't mean, in any stretch of the imagination, they therefore have to believe any element of any old religion. Now, Christianity, came into existence, and I could see the staying power of Christianity, an old model for understanding the world, because who understood the world? Like, why do we exist? What is this? So people came up with conclusions. They were wrong because they didn't have access to all the information that we currently have in light of, what we can do with our computational processes, simulations, or what we can see in our mathematics, what we see with our telescopes, what we see with our microscopes, what we see with our philosophy. The old timers, they just didn't have that information, but they did the best they could anyway. And it doesn't mean you need to be disloyal. You have to separate your loyalty from truth. I'm Roman Catholic, so of course I'm going to be loyal to the church. And you might be a Muslim, and you're going to be loyal to Islam. And you might be Jewish, and you're going to be loyal to Judaism. And you might be, an Italian, and you're going to be loyal to the Italians. Truth is something that's to be separated from your loyalty. You understand what I mean? I could certainly enforce some kind of religious system. Look at how much benefit you would get if you just stand in front of the congregation and say 1 + 1 = 3. Say 1 + 1 = 3, and you will have all this benefit. It's kind of funny to think about, but that's kind of what happens with a lot of the religions. You know what I mean? Because here's one thing that I'm sure of. If there's an all-loving God, and I think there is, I can't know, and I can never prove it, and I can never know. If there's an all-loving God, he certainly allows this world to have multiple competing religions where every one of them contradicts one another, and they've been in existence for thousands of years. That's something that I know about a universe where there's an all-loving God. And so, everyone who tries to claim this is the one certain one. Now, there are credible religions, and there's a lot of credibility to Roman Catholicism. You know what I mean? I think the church will exist forever. There's all kinds of reasons why I think that. I just think that somebody who thinks like me should also not be, subject to scorn or not that I ever have been. I'm not saying I'm being persecuted for my beliefs. As a matter of fact, I bet you a lot of priests would listen to what I'm thinking and what I'm saying and be like, yeah, it's kind of what I think too, or something like it. So I decided to create to name the religious beliefs that I have. I'm a renovationist Christian. I'm trying to renovate Christian theology in light of all of the things that I know about math, science, philosophy, money, whatever. And that's what I'm trying to do. And so now comes something hard. Well, because I mean, there's so many things I want to do. There's so many ideas that I have. I want to write more about what this axiomatic basis is for understanding God. Let me see if I can go back over it one more time. What am I exactly trying to say? God is all loving. God is all knowing, all powerful. He knows all that can be known, can do all things that can be done. There are some things that can't be done. You can't make a rock. You can't lift. He can make a universe. He doesn't know what's going to happen, so therefore he doesn't know what's knowable. It seems very clear that the universe, there's evidence that the more evidence that is overwhelming, but it's very strong, that our universe came into existence as a single atom of space, a single atom of, and then it flowered forward with time into complexity all the way down to us. And particularly my old mindset of understanding the world, all these old religions and all these old ways of trying to understand the world were people just trying to contend with what exists, contend with what's going on. And, good job. Nice try. But, you were wrong. Why? It's not because you were bad or anything. It's just because you didn't have access to sufficient information to figure it out. You didn't know. And so, so now comes the hard part. Like, how do I use this understanding and all the other understandings I have in my mind to try to figure out something complex? Who to vote for? Should I support Israel in the war, between them and the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip? How do I feel about Vladimir Putin in the Ukraine? You know what I mean? What should I do with my money? Should I, vote Democrat or Republican? Should I, these kinds of ideas. Like how do you take this insight about the nature of the world, that God is all-knowing, knows all that can be known, but doesn't know what we're going to do, is watching us with intense interest. And if this universe goes in certain directions, surely he will just withhold time from it or just put it to an end. Armageddon? No, I mean, I don't think Armageddon is just the, some made up stuff put in a book of Revelation that certainly accorded with reality, because what does confront mankind when the book of Revelation was happening? War, famine, disease, all that stuff was absolutely confronting man. They didn't know disease was caused by microbes, so they came up with so they put it on spiritual powers that cause disease. They whatever, you know what I mean? Brilliant stuff. A great, insightful way of looking at it, but it's just not accurate. Does the future of humanity have war and disease and other things like that to come? Sure. Could there be an Armageddon where the universe comes to an end? Well, I mean, or at least human species comes to an end? Sure. Could our AI put us out of existence? Sure. You want to call it Armageddon? Go ahead. It doesn't, have anything to do with that. As a matter of fact, I mean, when I was really thinking about it, it's funny, if I'm hungry and tired and irritated about the world, I think it's more likely the world's going to end soon than when I'm happier and I've been eating well and exercising. Like, the world's going to live forever. It's so interesting how your internal state will decide your philosophy about things. It's so fascinating that that's true. But, I mean, I suppose we have some reasonable chance I suppose there's a reasonable chance that we're going to become extinct over the next 50 years through nuclear Armageddon or AI out of control. I don't know. I don't know how high the percentage is. I don't know what I'm really thinking about it. I had a feeling that it was just certainly possible. But I also think that the future can be very bright and beautiful. Look at that new robot just coming out by Boston Dynamics. I mean, that looks great. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we won't even do the dishes anymore. Maybe. So, I mean, the future, there could be a lot of prosperity and a very beautiful future for humanity if we get over the next set of hurdles. So anyway, and this is where, the rubber hits the road. How do I use this understanding of God and our reality, in order to make decisions about other things? Here's something I want to say before I want to use this opportunity. Like, I remember when Donald Trump won the election in 2016, and I was listening to people saying, why was he won? And I remember I had this insight. Why did he win? Well, he won in 2016 because 70 or so million people voted for him, and each one of those people had their own set of decisions in their mind of why they decided to make that vote. And there was overlap, surely, but some people voted for whatever the collective set of reasons they said. So you see, it's like an interesting idea that I'm trying to get at before I go further. There's only been 108 billion people, and if the average age of everyone that's ever lived is 30 years old, which is probably not even true, then everyone has had 1 billion seconds alive, and that doesn't even really count. And how many free will decisions have all the human beings that have ever lived ever been able to make? What's the collective number of free will decisions that ever been made? Some people say free will doesn't even exist. I think it might be how you define free will, but that's a whole thing that needs to be talked about. But how many free will decisions is the upper maximum? If you do believe free will exists. I mean, so it could be zero. There could be. At one time, I once speculated when I was deep into trying to figure out Christianity, I think maybe there was just one free will decision. It was Jesus' decision to die on the cross. Like Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. And that's the reason why the universe continues to exist, because he told God, don't destroy the world. You know what I'm saying? In this moment of glory, in this moment of hardship and agony, he told, don't destroy the world, and God was like, okay, I won't. I don't. You guys look like you're doing a lot of good things, but you're also doing a lot of bad things. And guys, there's a lot of suffering you guys are going through, and I could just put an end to this. Pay attention to these other creations that are happening over here, maybe, but I'm paying attention to you guys, and you guys seem like you want to continue to exist, so I'm going to let this universe play itself out, even though, horrible things happen in it, but a lot of beautiful and good things happen in it too. And so, there's a lot of outs. However horrible a time somebody has had, I suppose one of the worst things that could happen in this creation is somebody being tortured. Somebody being kept alive and tortured for long periods of time. I mean, if I was an all-loving God, that would be something that would be very grieving to me. And you would say to yourself, has that ever happened? And it absolutely has. Some people have been tortured for very long periods of time. And God has never come to their rescue. And so how can an all-loving God still exist in light of that fact? And the answer is, well, if there, I'm not even sure God's even there, but I'm going to make the decision that he is. I'm going to act as if he is. And I would just simply say that the only answer I can come up with in theodicy to that, the theodicy meaning the justification of the goodness of God in light of the evil of the world, would be, that he has to let the universe play itself out if he's going to allow the whole universe to play itself out. And whatever happens in the universe, he has to allow it to happen. And at any time that he wants to stop it, he's willing to and he's able to. I think that, and this is an old understanding I had even when I was a Christian. I guess I am still a Christian, but even when I was still contending with and believing in Orthodox Christianity, this idea that it was up to us to tell God that we want the world to exist. It's up to us to tell God, we like our universe. We like our lives. We want, it to continue. And I mean, there's a lot of outs for people who don't want it to continue. You could die. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how much your suffering will eventually come to an end, no matter how much you suffer. But yeah, that would be the thing. Like look at Dan Simmons, Hyperperon, the Tree of Pain, where this evil AI thing puts everyone, gathers up many human beings and they tortures them. The Pain has a floor plan, if you ever read that series. And so, humanity is gathered up into a torture situation where there's these AI overlords are torturing humanity for a very long period of time. And, you would think, is there anything worse than the extinction of the human race? I guess there it is. What if the human race is permanently enslaved by something that's really, really evil and horrible? I would hope God would withhold time from the universe and put an end to us and to it. So extinction is probably about the worst thing I can think of. But there's some ways the human species can continue to exist that wouldn't be so pretty. There's a way we got to work, towards, you see, I really believe what I'm saying. Our minds are our conduits that bring generosity and love and hope into the world. It wasn't here in the first place. We don't live in a fallen world. We live in an emergent world. We were predator and prey. Look at the animal kingdom. We evolved out of that kingdom, the animal kingdom. And so we got to a point where we can start to bring justice in this world. You would think sometimes where in the New Testament where Jesus would talk about mercy, or in the Old Testament where God would talk about mercy. I mean, what is mercy? Mercy probably, in the first instance, some Old Testament stuff would be like, we conquered that group and we decide not to kill them all. You know what I'm saying? It's because life is hard. Long time ago, when there was a lot of poverty and not that much food to go around, life is hard. And so this universe, by its nature, has this in it. I don't think it's caused by Satan at all. I think the belief in the existence of Satan is a bad thing. Actually, somebody can believe in the existence of Satan and then also work with, decide they're going to work with that belief. Those guys scare me. But you see, I don't think Satan actually exists. That's not the explanation for the evil in the world. That's not it. It's something quite different. It's just the nature of the world itself. But I still think there's an all-loving God, because however much pain you go through in this world, he can rectify it after you die. He can put you in heaven. He can do those kinds of things. or there is no God, and the whole thing is just a random nightmare. Boy, I could go on for thousands of examples of the transition to this set of beliefs from an older model for understanding the world. You hold fast to your loyalties. So anyway, here's this Irish Catholic guy, German Protestant guy, a mixed German Protestant Irish Catholic guy. I've always kind of embraced my mother's Catholicism through my life. Sitting here and looking from afar and looking at the news broadcast, trying to think about what to think about Gaza, what to think about Israel. And I want to answer it, in a very holistic way. How many people from Palestine attacked Israel that day? I don't know, 2,000, something like that. Why did they do it? Well, each one of the people who did it had their own individual reasons for doing so. No question, probably one of them were doing it just because they were told to, and they didn't want to lose face, because somebody older was telling them, you should do this. And they're like, okay, I'll do it, even though they didn't want to. No question there were some people who were doing it because they know Islam is the true religion. They know Judaism is a false religion and that they're the worst of people that need to all be killed. There's no question there were some Palestinians who did it because they were like, we're oppressed by this other government over here. And they put walls everywhere and they give us all kinds of rules, and they stole our land from us and we want our land back. And this is how we respond to that oppression. In the after October 7th happened, we'll go through the various things that various members of the Israeli military did. There were certainly certain members of the Israeli military like, we just know there's missiles coming out of the building. We have to destroy that building so we don't get hit by these missiles anymore. You know what I mean? And then there's probably some other member of the Israeli military who knows Israel. All of it belongs to them, from the river to the sea. All of it belongs to Israel, and we just can't wait to get rid of all these Palestinians. They have, essentially some version of genocide in the heart. And they don't vocalize it. They know they're smart enough to say something else. But this is probably what they're thinking. And so you have the whole gamut of possibilities. And then at any given time, where there's warlike people that want war to happen and want to be able to, rape and pillage and destroy, other people who are more restrained, who are more just, are trying, holding those people back. But then when you get hit, you let slip the dogs of war. I mean, you let the attack dogs go, and that's kind of what happens. And so what it seems to me to be is on October 7th, that attack that they did, that day on Israel, they had the Palestinian leadership, Hamas, had to recognize that they couldn't win. What are you doing? What are you poking them for like that? And I hear some people say, well, we embrace death because our religion, allows us to embrace death because we have to do anything we can to take down our oppressors or to take down people who don't believe in our religion or whatever it is. See, that's always been part of the problem of the calculus here. What's going on? Is the animosity between these two groups because they hold different religion, or the religions don't matter and it's just two different groups and one group's being oppressed and they're trying to fight back because of their oppression. So is it oppression or is it a difference in religious beliefs? Now, I know, ultimately I'm concluding that both their religions are false. The Roman Catholicism is false. All the religions that are false. The only person who sees true religion right now is me. I mean, which, and I know I gotta be false, but at least I'm saying one thing that's true. If you're gonna have a religious belief, is have a completely evidence-based one. Have one that's based upon obviously acceptable axioms. The resurrection of Jesus happened. It violates the second law of thermodynamics, obvious axioms of biology. Muhammad never walked on the moon because that's not possible without spaceships. And Moses never parted the Red Sea because do you know how gravity and water works? It just doesn't work like that. And so So there's an obvious element of falsehood to all these religions. But that doesn't mean that people aren't, grouping up based upon these ideas. I'm Jewish, somebody else. I'm Muslim, somebody will say. And then those two groups, collectively start to create conflict between each other. And so where do I formally therefore stand on the whole issue? It's really obvious to me where I stand. What does Senator Bob Casey and Senator John Fetterman think? I'm a Pennsylvanian. I live in Pennsylvania. What do my senators think? These are the guys who have access to greater information. They know more. And then, of course, President Biden. You follow me? I mean, it's like I know it's crazy. Nobody talks like this, but why does nobody talk like this? What does my leadership of my group say? You know what I'm saying? The people, because I got a job to do. I got a life to live. I got money and bills and etc. I don't have time to figure out the intricacies of this. And so ultimately, I have to lean upon the decision-making of my leaders. And who are my leaders in this? The governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro? Sure, but, usually governors don't deal with foreign affairs. Senators do. They're the ones who vote on treaties, right, per the U.S. Constitution. And, of course, my president. And Anthony Blinken, the State Department, right? I'm a tax-paying American citizen. The IRS just took $1,000 out of my bank account because it's just after April 15th. I'm a tax-paying citizen of the United States of America. And my leaders, are my elected leaders. And you can sit there and mumble jumbo about corruption until you can talk about this and you can say that, you can say that. But ultimately, a little bit of humility here. I mean, ultimately, America's been doing what it's been doing for 75 years. It's been supporting the government of Israel and its military for 75 consistent years, ever since apparently some decision made by Harry S. Truman. And you can get into whether or not it was fair at the beginning or not fair at the beginning or this or that. But ultimately, human beings do what they do. I talked to one Muslim guy, and I really liked what they were saying. One Muslim guy was like the Jewish lobby has a hold over the American Congress, and an example of that was the guy who just died in prison. I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. What's his name? The guy who just died in prison. I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. Maxine Gladwell was the woman, and then there was Jeremy Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, right? Jeffrey Epstein. And so he was like a Mossad agent that was corrupting American officials on behalf of the Jewish lobby so that he could control, all of America. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if he was so damn powerful, he did wind up dying in jail. And by the way, there were 2 reports saying it was just suicide, that he wasn't actually murdered. And by the way, the lobbying is a valid part of the American governmental system because people need to communicate to legislators what they want. But they give them money and they corrupt them up. I mean, legislators are human beings that are going to try to be as objective as they can be. That's why I always felt we needed more legislators. You got a nation of 330 million people, only 535 human beings decide what a $7 trillion budget is. Obviously, we need more legislators making decisions for the rest of us, because that's how that works. It's like, that's what juries are for. That's, to make decisions on behalf of other citizens. And so that's how I would look at that. I would just simply accept the leadership of my, government and completely understand that the history of the situation has been such that we've always supported the Israeli government and the Israeli military over, the Palestinians or the Muslim nations that surround it, and that's how it is. You want to poke somebody that can beat you, then you poke somebody who beat you. I mean, the history's filled with lots of people who tried to do that, and it wasn't very successful. You don't pick a fight you can't win. And that's what happened there. and lots of people are dying because of it. And but I'm not going to protest it. I'm not. I'm just going to continue to live my life and pay my taxes and do what I got to do, because that's what's right, from my perspective.